welcome everybody to this 2020 issue of International Gita Forum. And this online forum is being held for the first time in this fashion due to the COVID situation. And we are very glad that a large number of people have registered to this for this event, and as well as we are having a participation from a large number of countries from 5 different So I will now, without much ado, let me ask Sindhu for her prayers, and we will start the session right in earnest with invocation of Bhagavad Gita as well as some prayers to the Lord. After that, we will commence with welcome address. So over to Sindhuji.
Om. Om. Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vighnopashantaye Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Sarvamangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadhike Sharanye Triambake Gauri Narayani Namostute Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrutavarshini Bhagavati Ashtadasha Dhyayini Ambatva Manusantadham Aravindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gitamrutaduhe Namaha Vasudeva Sutan Devam Kausachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnau Vande Jagadgurum Mukhaṁ Karoti Vachalam Pangullanghayate Girim Yatkrupatamahau Vande Paramananda Madhavam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavai Vedai Sangapadakramopanisadai Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yoginaha Yatsyantyana Vidussura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Over to you, KKG.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sindhuji, for the invocation to Bhagavad Gita as well as to the gods. So now I invite Mr. Srinivasanji, who is the chairperson of the steering committee of Gita Jayanti, for his welcome address. Over to Srinivasanji.
Hari Om, Puja Sri Swami Sarvapriyananda, the eminent speaker of the forum today, Sri Ambassador Jayachandran, Chairman Hindu Endowment Board, Sri Rajan Krishnan, Chairman Hindu Advisory Board, Ambassador 𝗘𝗩𝗘𝗥𝗬𝗏, and then Snehakanji, Ram Prasad and Sujit Bhatia as well as Krishna Kumar from the steering committee, Shuklaji, Brijesh Shuklaji from Chairman Gita Jayanti Organizing Committee, distinguished delegates from over 28 countries joining this forum today. To all of you, a warm welcome. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all this year's Gita International Forum, which is being held for the first time on a virtual basis due to the prevailing circumstances and the consequent measures, including social distancing. No doubt, the 𝗕𝗛𝗑𝗥𝗬𝗏, called COVID this time, has caused innumerable miseries, upsets, difficulties to each and everyone all over the world, from not sparing with giving them a lot of difficult moments. And we pray that this calamity ends soon and normalcy returns to the whole world very soon. Yet, as they say, there is something positive in all negative. So if you see that amid this gloom, we are also benefited by this kind of seminars where we are able to receive the wisdom of pearls from Swamiji without limitation of time or space or location. Thank you, Swamiji, for joining us today. Gita Jayanti Singapore is a unit of Hindu endowment boards now, which brings together 30 over Indian organizations and temples to spread the message of Gita, carrying out various types of activities, attracting right from the children who are able to draw from the age of 3-4 to the adults as old as 70 octogenarians also. So the idea is to spread the message and bring more awareness to Gita among the people in Singapore, and now, of course, to the people all over who are joined us today. So the Gita Jayanti has though gone virtual, and it has got its own, but I would say that we used to have a lot of gatherings and physical gatherings to conduct our events, but now with this virtual meeting, the fervor has not dropped any iota. The fortnightly online Gita Parayanam, as well as the present Gita Forum, which has attracted over 500 registrants, is a huge testimony for this. Now, Vedas are the fundamentals of our Sanatana Dharma, which reveal through Upanishads at the end of the final part the true nature of one's own self. And Vedas being very vast and complex, it's not, sometimes the common man is not able to comprehend it very clearly, understand it very clearly. So the Bhagavad Gita, given to us by Lord Krishna himself, to us through Arjuna, is the essence of Upanishads, and it stands out as a text alone and is condensing all the messages of, the lessons of Upanishads and giving us in a side of a small nectar. Just now we heard in the Dhyana recitation, there was a Dhyana sloka that says, if Upanishads are compared to a cow, then the Krishna Gopalanandana is the cowherd and milker, and Arjuna is a calf. The wise man drinks that milk, which is nothing but the nectar of Gita. However, in today's context, I would like to say that the supply chain has to have one more addition, like a scholar in between, to bring the message of Gita to the not so wise people like us. That's where purified intellects like Swami Sarvapriyananda come to us and share their messages that makes us understand Gita more easily and assimilate the philosophy. Even Swami Vivekananda says so. Let me quote, than the Gita, no better commentary on Vedas has been written or can be written. The essence of Shrutis or of the Upanishads is hard to be understood, seeing that there are so many commentators, each one trying to interpret his own way. Then the Lord himself comes, he who inspired the Shrutis, to show us the meaning of them as the preacher of Gita. And today India needs nothing better, the world wants nothing better than this method of interpretation, unquote. It is also interesting note that very often Gita is also seen as a guidebook for leading a proper human life here and now. It is because of the fact Gita is timeless and its lessons are always relevant to humanity at any given point of time, enabling them to face the daunting problems all over, anytime. It doesn't mean that it will cure the physical ailments, replacing the medical science, or give you pariharas to reduce the the pains or sufferings, but it will empower our thought process to discriminate and to become dispassionate to the happenings around us, not only outside the body, but within the body too, and making us strong to face any challenge and undergo and come out successfully. That way, this Gita has a universal appeal and stands as a universal document as always. The topic today, the topic of the lecture today is that spiritualizing the everyday life in the light of Bhagavad Gita is also a testimony to this. Swami Sarvapriyananda, I have heard him earlier on, and I can say with confidence, without any doubt, that he'll be bringing the messages of Gita to us in a different dimensions today, keeping us inspiring and interesting. He is going to light the Gita in our mind, dispelling the darkness that is ignorance. He has got talks in a contemporary style that is very simple to understand, comprehend, and we should be able to take a lot of messages away from today. When we requested Swami Sarvapriyananda to address us at this International Gita Forum 2 months back, without an iota of hesitation, he accepted the invitation. We immensely thank him for his very kind gesture. Thank you, Swamiji. We request you to now take over and commence the lecture. Namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste, everybody, and thank you to the International Gita Forum and the organizers for inviting me and having me on this occasion. I hope everybody can hear me clearly. You can hear me clearly? All right.
Yes.
I'll request Krishna Kumarji, who is managing the technical side of things, to keep an eye on, suppose there's a connectivity problem or anything, just let me know and we'll try to fix it. In spiritual life, there are really, just two main questions, two big questions in spiritual life. The first question is that how do we realize God? How do we get self-realization? Whatever you can call it, moksha, nirvana, salvation, freedom. So that's the main question. How do we do that? And there are so many wonderful answers to that in the different scriptures across the world. And the second big question is, once we get that knowledge, once we get that spiritual insight, how do we live our lives? You see, quite apart from spirituality, from meditation, philosophy and all of that, our day-to-day life is still continuing. You have jobs and family and a career, responsibilities in the world. So how are the two connected? How is it that spirituality or philosophy can help us in our day-to-day practical life? So that is the subject for this talk. It's a very broad and general subject. How to spiritualize daily life in the light of Bhagavad Gita. And you will notice that I have selected chapter 3. Chapter 3, which is called Karma Yoga. I've selected that because I think it embodies the essence of the teaching of Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, how to spiritualize our day-to-day life. In chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, perhaps the most important chapter, in the first chapter of course is an introduction where Arjuna poses his problem to Sri Krishna, and Sri Krishna starts teaching only from chapter 2. So what he says in chapter 2 is the essence of the whole Vedantic message. In chapter 2, in response to Arjuna's question, by the way, was a practical question. Arjuna did not ask for Vedanta, did not ask for meditation, did not ask for philosophy. He asked a practical question that I have this terrible duty before me. I have to fight this war in which my relatives are there on the opposite side, and is it worth fighting this war, and should I do it? I can't decide. Please tell me what I should do. So this was the question. In response to his question, Krishna did not answer him directly. He, very interestingly, Sri Krishna tells Arjuna about Vedanta, about Atma Tattva, about who we are, what am I, who am I. That teaching is what Sri Krishna gives. Meaning thereby, the interesting implication of that is that for all our problems, whether it's material problem or psychological problem, relationship problem, whatever problems we have in life, ultimate solution is spiritual solution. That's one important takeaway we get from Sri Krishna's very interesting strategy to convince Arjuna, to teach Arjuna. First, he gives the highest Atma Tattva, Vedantic teaching he gives, and he says that we really do not know ourselves. We think we are these bodies and minds, but the truth is that we are not this physical body, not just flesh and blood. We are not even this mind, this personality with which whom we are identified. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, our personal narrative, even that is not the real I, the real nature of the I. Somebody told me a couple of days ago, Swamiji, don't directly say, I'm not the body, not the mind. That is very shocking. You could say that we are not only the body, I'm not only the mind. I said, very good. All right, that's also correct. What Sri Krishna teaches is that body and mind, this limited personality, is not the end of the story. Our real nature is far deeper than this, far more profound than this. He says the real nature is the Atman, which is not the body, not the mind, which is of the nature of pure consciousness, pure being. It does not die when the body dies. It is not subject. The famous verses are there in the Bhagavad Gita. It cannot be cut by the sword. It cannot be drowned by water. It cannot be desiccated by the air, and so on and so forth. So we have this immortal existence. Body will age and die. Even for the most spiritual person, body will die. Mind is subject to ups and downs. But if that mind can be tuned to our spiritual nature, if we can realize that I am the Atman, then the mind will get peace, the mind will get strength, mind will get fearlessness. To realize that I am the Atman, which is of the nature of, what is this Atman? It's not a body, it's not thoughts and feelings, it is existence, it is awareness, and it is fulfillment, 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Existence, awareness, bliss absolute is the Atman. This has to be realized. The fundamental teaching of the Upanishads, that thou art, aham brahmasmi, I am Brahman. So this has to be realized, and having realized this, you live your life like a Jivan Mukta. Sri Krishna gives the term Sthita Prajna. In the end of the second chapter, he describes how an enlightened person lives. And that's the end of the second chapter. That's the essence of the teaching. In fact, what Sri Krishna wanted to say to Arjuna has been said in the second chapter. Then what about the rest of the 16 chapters of Bhagavad Gita? 18 chapters are there. Out of that, the 16 chapters which follow the Bhagavad Gita. Why? What is taught there? They are taught because Arjuna starts asking questions. The essential teaching has been given in second chapter. Now Arjuna has many questions. As he asks a question, a new chapter starts. So he asks the most important question at the beginning of the third chapter. After hearing Sri Krishna, after hearing all the Vedantic teachings that you are the Atman, you are Brahman, fine, this the goal of life is to become a Jivan Mukta, to attain moksha, live this life as an enlightened person. Very good. But this confuses Arjuna. Arjuna thinks, so spirituality is the goal of human life. God realization or self-realization is the goal of human life. Then what am I doing here? Why am I going to fight this terrible battle? What is the point of all of this? Let me give it all up and become a monk and maybe go away to the Himalayas and meditate and become an enlightened person. So he asks this question. So the problem is, Krishna seems to be saying two things. He's telling me that I am the Atman, like Shankaracharya many centuries later, Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham. I'm of the nature of bliss. I'm of the nature of consciousness. I'm of the nature of Shiva. He's telling me this, and I have to realize this, become enlightened. That's one. That's the goal of human life. At the same time, Krishna is telling me to fight this battle. So he seems to be telling me two things. Be spiritual, and it seems to be telling me to be engaged in the world also. Aren't they contradictory? It should be one or the other. He should tell me which one I should do. So the third chapter starts with Arjuna's great question, which is actually the question we are dealing with today. The question of spiritualizing our daily life. Arjuna asks the question, Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana. It says, Tatkim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. O Krishna, if you think knowledge, enlightenment, God realization is higher, is the highest thing, then why are you engaging me in this terrible action? It's not just ordinary world, it's a worldly activity. It's not just a morning 9 to 5 job. It is most terrible kind of human action, which is war, actually fighting and killing, worst kind of activity. Why are you pushing me into this? He says, tell me one. Tadekam vada nischitya yena shreyaham aham shreya, by which I can attain the goal of human life. The shreya is moksha here. Tell me one. Knowledge or work? Jnana yoga or karma? Tell me one. Now, this is the confusion from Arjuna's standpoint. But this gives us the occasion for learning how to spiritualize our daily activity, our daily lives. Krishna wants both to continue. And he says in his answer that Loke asmin dvividha nishtha pura prokta maya nagha jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. Very interesting verse. Krishna says in answer to Arjuna's question, from the most ancient times, I have taught these two kinds of practices. Don't be confused here. I'm not giving an alternative. I'm saying that both are necessary. What are these two practices? One he calls Jnana Yoga, another one he calls Karma Yoga. So Jnana Yoga, as we understand it in Advaita Vedanta today, it will consist of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, study systematically, hearing and studying the Upanishads, Vedantic truths, all the things which Krishna said in second chapter. Study that. Think about it until clarity is there. Studying will give you the knowledge, but then we have doubts. I don't get it. I don't understand. I have many objections to it. So that will be clarified by question and answer from the teacher, from the other students, by one's own thinking. So that stage is called manana. And finally, once we have got the knowledge and we are convinced about it, then we meditate. Then we assimilate the knowledge. As Swami Vivekananda calls it, that let this knowledge, soham, I am he or I am that reality, let it tingle with every drop of your blood until it becomes natural. That is called assimilation of knowledge. Then one becomes a jivan mukta or sthita prajna, enlightened person. So that is the jnana yoga path. And the karma yoga path, Krishna says, one must spiritualize one's daily activity. And these are not alternatives, either jnana yoga or karma yoga, not that way. Both are necessary. It is like, suppose I have to go on a journey from New York to Singapore. And then I have to, then in that case, I'll be told that you take a ticket, buy a plane ticket from JFK here, and then go to Shanghai International in Singapore. But for that, from your ashram to the JFK, you have to take a cab. Now, if I ask, tell me one, aeroplane or cab, a taxi or aeroplane, which one? It's a foolish question. Both are necessary. From your ashram to the airport, you have to go. Otherwise, you cannot get the aeroplane. So you need the taxi, which will take you there. Absolutely essential. But that will not take you to Singapore. From there, you have to take the plane, and which will take you to Singapore, which is a nice example. So there are two stages basically to spiritual life. If the goal is to realize I am Brahman, then what is the necessity for anything else? The problem is that realization will not come without preparation. In classical Advaita Vedanta, the teachings of the Upanishads will give us enlightenment, but for that preliminary preparation is necessary. That preparation is called Chitta Shuddhi, Chitta Ekagrata, purification of the mind, focus or concentration of the mind. This purification and training of the mind is done by Karma Yoga. Without Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga will not work. Without Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga will not reach its fulfillment. Fulfillment is enlightenment, God realization, moksha. So both are necessary. So that was Sri Krishna's essential message. You cannot give up engagement with practical life, daily life. One Buddhist teacher here, Jack Cornfield here in the US, he said, after the ecstasy, the laundry. What he means is, after meditation, philosophy, all of that is done, you still have your daily duties to perform. You know, kitchen is there, dishes have to be washed, your clothes are put in the laundry, they have to be washed, you have a job to go to, you have a family to take care of. Are they two separate things? That leads to a problem. If you separate spiritual life, secular life, both will suffer. What happens is, we have a separate temple or church or mosque, spiritual life. And then my job, family, personal health, all of these things, secular life. Once I do that, what happens is, first of all, spiritual life will suffer. Because when it is divorced from our day-to-day life, then the pressures of our daily life are so much. You have a job which is so demanding. You have a family to look after. You have your personal life, your health and financial, all these things are there. So much pressure is there, so much time and energy it takes away. Nothing will be left over for spiritual life. Spiritual life will become a very minor activity in your life. And the opposite, when we divorce our secular life from spiritual life, the blessings of spiritual life, the peace and the joy and the strength, and being centered and calm in the midst of the storms of our life, that will not come. The benefit will not flow. So it is an integrated life which Sri Krishna is teaching. Not spiritual life and secular life, but spiritualizing our day-to-day life, our daily life. That is the teaching. One cannot give up karma. One cannot, even one, if one wants to become spiritual, one wants to become a monk, one cannot give it up. Krishna himself says to Arjuna, look, Arjuna, nahi kaschit kshanam api jatu tishtata karma krit, karyate hyavashah karma sarva prakriti jair gunaihi. Not one moment can you remain without karma. Continuously activity is going on. In a living body, it is continuously changing. Activity is going on. Even if you try to run away and sit in the mountains, what will happen is, if the mind is not purified, mind is not focused, you will keep thinking about the world. If you give up everything and become a sannyasi and sit in the mountains, what will happen to Arjuna? Without purification of mind, what will happen is, there in the mountains also, where he has gone to meditate and practice Vedanta and yoga, he will think, what is that crooked fellow Duryodhana doing? When I had the chance, I should have punished that fellow. So that kind of thinking will go on even in the even if the person becomes a sannyasi and goes to the mountains. Krishna says that ya aste manasa smaran mithyachara sa uchyate. In the 3rd chapter, he says that having given up worldly activities, who sits ya aste, sits in meditation as if manasa smaran, thinking about the world and the enjoyments of the world and the problems in the world, continuously engaged with the world in the mind, externally just sitting separately, this is mithyachara, that is hypocrisy. So one cannot give up action. Unless you want to become a hypocrite, Arjuna, you cannot give up action. He says, even for a monk, sharira yatra, even a monk has to go out and beg for food. A monk also has to run the ashrama. So action cannot be given up. And he goes on to say, action should not be given up. Nahi karmanam anarambhat naishkarmyam purusho asnute. In that same chapter, Krishna says, just by giving up your worldly life, one cannot become spiritual. Nahi sannyasana deva. Just by sannyasa, just by giving up, one cannot become enlightened. One must complete the course of action. Swami Vivekananda said, you cannot become enlightened by running away from the machine. One must learn how to work the machine. Machine means this world, samsara. One must learn how to work the machine. The machine itself will set you free. So this, one should not give up karma also. Sri Krishna tells Arjuna that yad yad acharate shrestha tad tadeve tarojana sayat pramanam kurute lokas tadanuvartate. Whatever the superior person like you, Arjuna, everybody looks up to you. You are a leader of society. Whatever you do, others will follow that. So even for the welfare of the others, you should set an example how to lead an ideal life in the midst of the world, how to lead a spiritual life in the midst of your worldly responsibilities and duties. Otherwise, if you give up this, others also will follow you, and this will damage or harm society. So one should not give up karma also. Not only one cannot give up, one should not give up, and one need not give up karma also. Sri Krishna says in the same chapter, he says, karmana eva samsiddhim astita janakadaya. The great emperor Janaka, your ancestors who are kshatriyas, who are men of action, they attained spiritual perfection through work. They were engaged in work. They were engaged in activity in the world, and they attained enlightenment. They became Brahmagyanis. You too can become a Brahmagyani by spiritualizing your activity, your daily life. So this is the background, that why this whole question of spiritualizing our daily life, which is what the topic is today, it is coming up. Sri Krishna says, I will teach you that method by which one can spiritualize one's day-to-day activities. One can be engaged in the world fully and then spiritualize one's day-to-day activity. So in the 30th verse of chapter 3, this is the real reason why I chose chapter 3 for today's talk. The 30th verse of chapter 3, Sri Krishna gives a very beautiful teaching, which shows us how to spiritualize our daily activity, whether in the family, job, community, how to spiritualize it. He says, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvaraha. Mayi sarvani karmani. So this is the crucial teaching. All your activities, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya, offer them to me, offer them to God. Adhyatma chetasa, we will look at it in detail, with a spiritual attitude, with a spiritual philosophy. And nirashi, without any desire of your own. Nirmama, without any attachment. Nirashi nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva, be engaged in battle. And then he says, vigatajvara, free from all anxiety and worry. You relax with calmness, with serenity. Vigatajvara literally means without fever, without the fever of anxiety and fear and tension. Be engaged in all your activities. From morning till night, you can go on working. Now, what is the meaning of this verse? I'm reminded of the most ancient, this Greek philosopher, Socrates. He says, what is the need for philosophy? He says, unexamined life is not worth living. So you need not, this the sort of animalistic life, mechanical life is not worth living. One must have a philosophy in life. One must investigate and have a noble, high philosophy in life. As if in reply to that, the modern existentialist Sartre, Jean-Paul Sartre, he said just the opposite. Unlived life is not worth examining. See, unexamined life is not worth living. Unlived life is not worth examining. If you are just a theoretical philosopher sitting with books and not living your life, that life itself is not worth examining at all. So philosophy and practical life have to go together. The great psychoanalyst Erich Fromm, he said, insight separated from practice remains ineffective. So I get some insight from spirituality, but if I do not put it into work in my day-to-day life, that insight will remain ineffective. So jnana must be put to work. I must try it out. What I learned from Vedanta, I must try it out in my day-to-day life. That is called spiritualizing our daily life. Sri Krishna has said here that 𝗕𝗛𝗙𝗦𝗬𝗧𝗧, spiritual philosophy, by spiritual mindset, what does it mean? Our general mindset in the world is, what can I get from you? Swami Ranganathanandaji, who was the 13th president of the of our order, Ramakrishna Math and Mission, he used to say spiritual attitude is very simple. This 𝗕𝗛𝗙𝗦𝗬𝗧𝗧, Krishna says, spiritual attitude or spiritual mindset, it's a very simple thing. Swami Ranganathanji used to say, when I close my eyes, I find peace within. When I open my eyes, my attitude is, what can I do for you? That is spirituality. That is spiritual attitude. When I close my eyes, I find peace within. Normally people say, oh, Swamiji, when I try to meditate, so much disturbance is there, so many anxieties, worries. The moment I close my eyes, all those things boil up. And when I open my eyes, not what I can do for you, what I can get from you. No wonder that we do not find peace. No wonder that we do not find joy. It has to be reversed. 𝗕𝗛𝗙𝗦𝗬𝗧𝗧 means that in my activities in the world are for the welfare of the world. Sri Krishna tells Arjuna, loka samgraham api sampashyan. Looking upon the world as, what can I give to the world? Welfare of the world. You should be engaged in action. The normal motivation is, I will get money, I will get name and fame, I will get respect, I will get honor. That is why I am engaged in action. That will not work. Ultimately, one has to realize that all those things, nothing wrong with money or name and fame and honor or even the pleasures of the world, but no deep satisfaction is there. Ultimately, for deep satisfaction, for fulfillment in life, one has to turn to spirituality in whatever form. You may not come to Gita. You may not come to Vedanta. One may simply have a kind of simple devotion to God in any form. Whatever, jnana or bhakti or any kind of spirituality, one ultimately has to turn to. The goal must become moksha. Money cannot be the goal. Power cannot be the goal. Pleasure cannot be the goal. Even learning cannot be the goal. One sadhu in Uttarakhand put it nicely. I'll tell you what he said in Hindi and then translate. He said, कौन बचाएगा? Who will save you? राजा नहीं बचा सकता, पंडित नहीं बचा सकता, सेठ जी नहीं बचा सकते. The king cannot save you. The pandit, scholar cannot save you. Seठ ji means a rich person, billionaire cannot save you. Who will save? Guru bachata hai. The spiritual teacher saves you with Vedanta Vidya, with this knowledge of Vedanta, that alone saves you. After being sent to the United States from India, I lived in 3 interesting places in the last 3-4 years. One was, I was in Hollywood, in the Vedanta Society of Southern California. And the next was, so in Hollywood, the purpose of the goal of life is movie industry, glamour. It does not matter how rich you are or how learned you are. Are you connected with movie industry? Do you know how many film stars do you know? That seems to be the goal of life. Then I was sent from there to New York here. So next, close by here is Wall Street. Here, it is not glamour. It is not movie industry, but here it is money. How rich you are. Are you a billionaire? Then you have achieved the goal of your life. Then last year, I spent 1 year at Harvard in Boston. So there it is not glamour like Hollywood. There it is not money like here in Wall Street. There at Harvard, it is learning. Are you a Nobel Prize winner? Are you one of the top scientists or academicians? That is the sign of success there. Does it lead to happiness and fulfillment? No. Nothing wrong with movie industry, nothing wrong with Wall Street, nothing wrong with Harvard University. But by itself, those things will not lead to satisfaction. By itself, those things will not lead to fulfillment. What leads to fulfillment is spirituality. Call it God realization, self-realization, whatever. The sooner we realize it, the sooner we feel that there is something beyond glamour, beyond power, beyond money, beyond even learning. We realize that, better for us. Sri Ramakrishna put it very beautifully. All of these things, pleasure, money, family, jobs, success, power, these are, he says, like zeros. If you collect zeros, you will still get total 0. But if you put 1 before the zeros, all the zeros will get value. 1 0 will become 10, 2 zeros will become 100, 3 zeros will become 1000, 1. Now, what is that one? That one is spirituality. I don't want to say it is only Advaita Vedanta or Bhakti to Krishna. It can be any form of spirituality, but spirituality is that one. We must have that in our lives. Then only fulfillment, peace will be there. That should be the goal. God realization, self-realization, whichever you think you call it, is the goal. This is called Adhyatma Chetasa. Krishna says, all of us, O Arjuna, you, everybody, mature person should become a sadhaka or sadhika, spiritual seeker. I may be a teacher, I may be a businessman, I may be a housewife, I may be a monk, but at my heart of hearts, I should say, I am a spiritual seeker. Mahatma Gandhi, he says, who am I? When people ask me, people give different answers. Some people think that I am a politician. Some people think that I am a freedom fighter. Some people think that I am a social reformer. So that's what we think about Mahatma Gandhi. But he says, if you ask me, who are you? He says, I will say only one thing. I am a simple man in search of God. I am a simple man in search of God. That should be our core identity. That I am a sadhaka, I am a spiritual seeker. I am seeking God realization. I am seeking self-realization. They say in Hindi, choti muh badi baat. I'm an ordinary person. How can I say such a great thing that I am seeking God realization? No. It is for everybody. If you're a human being, one should. When one becomes mature enough, one should realize that things in the world, nothing wrong with them, but they cannot give lasting fulfillment. The lasting fulfillment only in spiritual life it is possible. So I am a spiritual seeker, but that does not mean like Arjuna. He thought I will give up everything now and I will go away to like ashram or Himalayas and meditate. Krishna says, Adhyatma Chetasa, which this spiritual philosophy, do all activities. Sarvani karmani. He says, my sarvani karmani. All your activities, your professional duties, your family duties, your personal duties, you do all of them. How? Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya. Offer them to me. Convert all your activities into puja, into worship. I exist. God exists. And this entire universe belongs to God, not to you. So if you've been put there with the life that has been given to you by God, with the people that have been given to you by God, with the talents that have been given to you by God, with that little time on this earth that has been given to you by God, worship God through your activities. Sarvani karmani. Sarvani here means both so-called religious and secular. It is not just puja in the puja room that you should offer to Krishna, but also the work that you're doing. You're typing in a computer, you are teaching in a school, you are working in a hospital, you are an IT technician, businessman, whatever activity you are doing at home or in the office or in your workplace, all of that, sanyasya. Sanyasya means literally giving up, means offering. Don't give up the work. Offer the work to God. How? Adhyatma Chetasa. By in a spiritual attitude. Goal is no longer money or name or fame or power or pleasure. Those things are like zeros. They will be there. When you do activity in the world, all those things will come. Automatically they will come. But that is not your goal anymore. Your goal is nothing less than God realization. What is Mahatma Gandhi's goal? That I am saying I am a simple man in search of God. What made Narendranath Datta into Swami Vivekananda? He went around asking, sir, have you seen God? To different people in Calcutta. That attitude, that we are seeker of God, we are spiritual seekers, that is the spiritual attitude. By that, we do all activities. Everything in our life can go on. What is the practice? Nirashir nirmamo bhutva. Normally, ordinarily, people, why do they work? They work because they want things. I want money. I want fulfillment. I want a satisfying career. I want fame. Now, once you realize those things cannot give fulfillment, cannot give lasting satisfaction, I want God. I want God realization. That is the purpose. It is not that when you do karma yoga, it is all purposeless or meaningless. If I don't have any worldly motivation, so what is the point of doing karma? No. There is a meaning. There is actually a purpose. There is actually a motivation also. Nishkama karma, karma done without any selfish motive. But spiritual motive is there. Krishna does not say that you have to give up, like act like a fool without any purpose, aimless activity. Not at all. Highest aim is there. The aim is God realization. For which purpose? Mahatma Gandhi, tremendously active person. He says, I am a simple man in search of God. But look, tremendously active person. He is undertaking political activity to free India from the British. He is undertaking social reform activity to uplift the masses. So many things he is doing. Completely engaged life. But the purpose is God realization. Adhyatma Chetas. And every one of us can do that. That is Krishna's message to Arjuna. So, Nirashi means without desire, without worldly desire. Those things are coming, they are like zeros, they will be there, but I know my fulfillment, my peace and peace of mind does not lie in them. Nirmama, I realize none of this belongs to me. This I am honest enough to realize this life and everybody else and everything in this world belongs to God. So with this attitude, it is not mine. Nirmama bhutva. Very interesting story is there. One of the greatest philanthropists here in New York is Rockefeller, John Rockefeller. So Rockefeller Foundations and all of those are there. When Swami Vivekananda came here to the West in 1890s, at that time John Rockefeller was just an upcoming entrepreneur and is earning his first millions. He heard that a monk had come from India, so he went to meet Swami Vivekananda. And Swami Vivekananda told him, all this wealth that you are accumulating, it is not yours. Think of yourself as a trustee. It is God has given you for the welfare of others. This he did not like. Rockefeller did not like this advice. Who is this fellow to tell me what I should do with my money? But something must have struck in his mind. Few days later, he came back to the house where Swami Vivekananda was staying at that time. And he said, where is that man from India? He is in the library. So Rockefeller goes into the library. And Swami Vivekananda was reading something or was writing something. Did not even look up. And Rockefeller stood for some time and then finally said, see, after you told me that, I made this donation for some big cause. He has given a lot of money. And he gives out the check and shows the check and throws it in front of Swami Vivekananda. Said, see, I followed your advice. You should thank me. And Swami Vivekananda said, no, it is for you to thank me. You should thank me. And then later on, we know how Rockefeller Foundation grew up and he became one of the greatest charitable philanthropists. So this idea, not mine, nirmamo bhutva, then what do? Engage in action. Yuddhasva, fight the battle of life. Wherever, whatever is your own, each of us has own Kurukshetra, own battle of life. No problem. We should not want that, if I only were, if the Wall Street investor thinks, if only I were a film star in Hollywood, the film star thinks, if only I was a professor in Harvard. No, whatever is your battlefield in life, each is good enough to take you to God realization. If the goal is God realization, every Kurukshetra is good enough. So fight the battle of life, Adhyatma Chetasa, with a spiritual goal, and Vigatadjwara. Now you can fight with no anxiety at all. I have seen in the order in Ramakrishna Mission, I see that. So in India, we have schools and colleges and university and hospitals, lot of activity. I have seen the senior Swamijis who are managing these institutions, how calmly, in what a relaxed way, they do so much work. So where is the tension? Where is the stress? Sometimes they get angry, sometimes they get stressed, but it goes away immediately. Then Bengali there is a saying, Sadhur Rag Jolet Dag. So in flowing water, if you draw a line with a stick on a flowing water, what will happen to that line? You will just see it for half a second, it will be gone again because water is flowing. Similarly, if you are a spiritual seeker, negative reactions, anger, stress, anxiety, those things may come, but like line in the flowing water, they will go away immediately. Vigata Jwara, free from fever. Jwara is fever. Free from fever. Engage in dynamic action in your workplace, in your family, in your personal life. Be fully engaged till the end of the life. One can fully be engaged in work and yet be highly spiritual. So this is the basic teaching which Sri Krishna gives. In this verse, I found some very good comments on this verse by Swami 𝗦𝗡𝗥𝗬𝗓𝗏. He was a very great saint in contemporary India. He used to live in Rishikesh, Swargashram. I unfortunately could not meet him. I was too foolish. I had gone there at one time. I was just passing through there and somebody said, go to that ashram, a very great sadhu is living there. I said, I will come back. Next time I come, I will meet him. And that was foolish because already at that time he was, I think, 101 years old or something. And so the few years later when I came, he had passed away at the age of 103 or 4 or something. But he has written a wonderful book. Those who want a detailed and very inspiring commentary on Bhagavad Gita in simple Hindi. It's in Hindi, Sadhak Sanjeevani. It has been translated into other languages, but if you know Hindi, better to go to the original. So from there, in this verse, he gives several interesting observations. I'll quickly share those observations. They are very practical and inspiring, and then I will stop. So he quotes from beautiful this idea of nirmama, not mine. He quotes a very nice verse from Mahabharata, Shanti Parva. This I had not seen earlier. This verse is Dvayaksharastu bhavet mrityu triyaksharam brahma shashvatam mameti cha bhaven mrityu namameti cha shashvatam. In 2 words, death is 2 words, or 2 letters. 2 letters is death. What are the 2 letters? Mama, mine. It is mine. He says it is death. 3 letters is the eternal Brahman. What is 3 letters? Na mama. Na mama. 3 letters. That makes it eternal Brahman, takes you to Brahman. If you say it is not mine, belongs to the Lord, what Vivekananda taught Rockefeller, that leads to Brahma Shashvatam, eternal reality, to enlightenment, God realization, immortality, whatever you call it. Mine, 2 letters only. That's the only 1 letter difference between death and immortality. Mama, mine. Na mama, not mine. With everything in the world, not only money or possessions, with relatives, with one's own body, with one's own thoughts also, all belongs to God. So this is one insight 𝗏𝗡𝗥𝗬𝗓 shares. Everything in this thing, in life, our body, our prana, life, our sense organs, our thoughts, intellect, all of it, it belongs, it was never mine, it is not mine, it will never be mine. This is the truth. One must recognize the truth. Our relationship is eternal, relationship is with God. These are non-eternal things. They come and go. You, the eternal soul, the eternal Atma, cannot have any relation with non-eternal things. What is Nitya cannot have relation with Anitya. What is Nitya will have relation only with the Nitya. What is Nitya? God is Nitya. What else is Nitya? You are Nitya, the Atma. You and God have a Nitya relationship. What is Anitya? Impermanent. World, body, other people, relatives, money, job. These are Anitya. With this, you do not have a relationship. Then what are these? These belong to God. They have been given to you for your spiritual development. Use it for spiritual development. This is wisdom. Do work for sannyasa. He says giving up. Giving up how? 𝗏𝗡𝗥𝗬𝗓 gives 3 levels of giving up. One is in a very simple way. If you can think, I do not do it for myself. I am doing it for others. It is Sri Krishna's own idea, loka sangraham, for the welfare of the others. So many people say that actually, without talking about so much philosophy. Many people say, I don't want anything for myself, Swamiji. I have some duties for the family, for the children. I have some duties for community or for the welfare of others. That's why I'm doing it. This is sannyasya to the world around us, samsara around us. I am doing it for them. It is my service. It is my offering. That is sannyasya. Very good. Deeper idea. This entire world is coming from Prakriti, nature. So recognizing that Prakriti alone is doing everything. Prakriti eva karmani kriyamanani sarvasha. Krishna's own teaching. Prakriti alone does all activity. So this is a Sankhyan insight. I am consciousness and I am the witness of all activity being done by Prakriti. Deeper idea. Even deeper, 3rd level. First, I am doing it for the world. Second, It is Prakriti alone who is doing everything. Third, Prakriti is the power of Maya, of the Lord, of God, of Brahman in Vedanta. In Sankhya, Prakriti and Purusha are different. But in Vedanta, Prakriti becomes the power of Purusha, power of Saguna Brahman. The new name for Prakriti becomes Maya. So I am offering everything to God, who is the Lord of Prakriti, which is the source of this universe. So that is the deepest idea of sannyasya, giving up. 3 levels of giving up. There are many interesting things. Is when I give up, what is the difference between ordinary puja and this karma yoga? Ram Sukhdas mentions there, in ordinary puja, it is my items, my money, my flowers, my fruits I am offering to Lord. There's some little bit of bargaining there. I'm giving something and you give me. You give me success or money or at least peace in life. But here, all of this belongs to the Lord. I'm not giving anything that is mine. Nothing is mine. That which belongs to the Lord, I'm worshipping the Lord. I'm worshipping Sri Krishna with the universe, which belongs to Sri Krishna. So this is a deeper idea. So much peace will come. So much peace will come. When I go to the temple of the Lord, the attitude, take this attitude. Just like we take off the chappal, the sandals outside the temple, the shoes. Similarly, take off some more things. Don't enter the temple as father, mother. Don't enter the temple as a company executive. Don't enter the temple as, I'm a financially challenged person, a disturbed person. No. All of those worldly attitudes, that chappal, that sandal or shoes, you leave outside. I entered the temple of the Lord. Sri Krishna is there, or the Lord is there. How? I love you, I am devoted to you. Out of bhakti alone, I have come here. I don't come here as father, mother, with all the, I need something for my children, I need something for myself. For a time being, try this. Leave all those identities outside the temple and go to the Lord as just a devotee, as just a lover of God and nothing else. I don't want anything. All those things belong to you. You will take care of it. So that is another very beautiful idea he has given. And then he points out, Yuddhasva, fight the battle of life. He says, what work could be worse than battlefield? So on purpose, Gita has been set on the battlefield. If the worst of work can be spiritualized, what to say of our work? Our work is much less difficult than Arjuna's work. So we can spiritualize our work. Another thing he points out, Ram Sukhdas ji, he points out that, notice this verse, that Mai Sarvani Karmani Sanyasya Adhyatma Chetasa. Notice this verse. There is Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, all in this verse. Mai Sarvani Karmani, if you notice that part, giving up all activities as worship of me, puja of me, God. That is Bhakti Yoga. Then next you notice Adhyatma Chetasa, with the goal of spiritual realization, God realization. That is Jnana Yoga. And then the last line, Nirashi Nirmamo Bhutva Yuddhyasva Vigatajvara. Calmly, in a serene way, be engaged in your daily activity without any sense of possession, nirmama, without any worldly desires behind it. That is Karma Yoga. In one verse, beautifully, the Lord Krishna has shown us by Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Karma Yoga how to spiritualize our daily activities. So this is, I think, one of the distinguishing characteristics of Bhagavad Gita. Highest Advaitic teaching you find in many texts. Upanishads are full of it. But how to bring that down to our daily life? This technique, this vidya, this knowledge to spiritualize our daily life, this we find in 3rd chapter, and especially in this 30th verse of 3rd chapter. Let me do a Shanti and then we will take question answers. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you so much.
Hari Om. Namaste, Swamiji. Thank you so much for that very highly illuminating and highly wonderful lecture on how to spiritualize our daily activities. I think one of the most important and timely and relevant topics of our day-to-day living. We have got innumerable, actually we ran into some issues with our YouTube, and so I think the chat is not getting enabled. So I have actually given out my number for people to chat, give questions if they want, but we have received, and we have not received any questions from Facebook, but we have received more than 150 questions on pre-event questions. So we have,
my God.
so we have enough questions for 10 IGF sessions. So but anyway, I think since we don't have that much time, I will take up questions which are actually not so common, and we'll try to put up the questions. So Manishji, can we put up the questions now on the screen, or shall I start asking the questions? Okay, let me yeah, this is the first question. Can you I can just read out the question.
Oh, the question answer session, I see.
Yeah, you're going to take questions, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great.
So how to read the question? Let me see.
I will read it out. I'll read it out.
Oh, please read it out.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Please read it.
So that no, there is. So first question is by Dr. 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏, who's the president of our Hindu center in Singapore. So he says his question is like this: our daily life is our lived reality. Our aches and pains, illnesses, feelings of joy and sorrow, our body and our mind. It seems far-fetched to ask that these are be considered as mere delusions of a higher reality. Sanatana Dharma has to provide for both this and the higher reality if it is to attract and keep people in its fold. The level of abstraction demanded by Advaita Vedanta and Tattva Bodha is not realizable for most people. So this is a question. So basically what he says is that how do we reconcile the idea of the pain of day-to-day living in terms of the ideas of Advaita Vedanta, and how to reconcile our...
Yes. I do not agree with the premise of the question that it is not realizable by most people. It is realizable. Sri Krishna teaches the highest Advaita, the self-knowledge, to Arjuna, who is a man of action engaged in the world. Now, yet what he's asking in the question is correct. There's an important dilemma which comes up. When you first read Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, Jiva Brahmaiva Napara, Brahman is real, the world is false. A world is false. It is easy to say that. Maybe nice to think it also. But actually, when you come in contact with the world, the problems of the world, they do not seem to be false. Physical problems, even worse, emotional problems, you can handle yourself. But what about people around you, your near and dear ones? So how to, their suffering seems to be much more than our own suffering. So how to handle all of that? It's not easy to say that it's all false. Now, that is not what Advaita Vedanta is. This is important to realize. It does not seem to be false. Advaita says correct. It does not seem to be false until a higher reality is grasped. The dream is not realized as false until you wake up. Only from our waking perspective can we say that the dream is false. And then you can ignore it. A movie. So the pains and the sufferings of the hero in the movie, we can actually enjoy it in the aesthetic sense. We can cry when our favorite character is suffering, but at the same time we are actually not sad. We are enjoying the movie only because we realize it is false. Until that experience of the falsity of the world is there, Advaita Vedanta says you should not regard the world as false. That's why Advaita Vedanta speaks about it at two levels of truth. Paramarthika, Vyavaharika. Vyavaharika means transactional or empirical level of truth. Everything that we do in life, your job and spirituality, and Bhagavad Gita teaching, everything is at the Vyavaharika level of life. A Paramarthika level is only in Brahman, that is existence, consciousness place. That is the ultimate reality. So with compared to that, this Vyavaharika reality is an appearance, is said to be false, mithyatva of the world. So that's the big point. Until one realizes the absolute reality, One should not, cannot, and in fact must not dismiss this world as unreal. Notice what we discussed in the session, that one cannot stop activity. Not, Krishna says, not even for kshanamapi, even for one moment you cannot stop activity. Not only that, one should not stop activity, because by stopping activity one does not become enlightened. Nahi karmanam anarambhat, not by not starting your activity, by not doing your duties, one will not become perfect. So, and finally, one need not stop activity. One need not withdraw from the world, because Krishna gives the example of Janakadaya. There are many others like Janaka, King Janaka and others who attained perfection, Jivan Mukti, Brahma Jnana, by being engaged in activity in the world, by doing one's duty. So in that sense, it is not said that mithya. If you dismiss it as false, problems of the world, or Vedanta, Gita, everything is also at that level. That also should be dismissed as false then. One cannot. So one must engage with it, but instead of dismissing it as false, keep the teaching of Vedanta that there is a deeper reality, that there is a higher reality, and that we must pursue by taking advantage of this world, using this world for our spiritual development. The great Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna, who lived about nearly 2000 years ago, who wrote the Moola Madhyamaka Karika, which is the fundamental text of the philosophy of Shunyavada, Madhyamaka Shunyavada, which is the philosophy of Sri Dalai Lama, the Tibetan Buddhists, and so on and so forth. That Shunyavada philosophy, Nagarjuna says that these two levels of truth were taught by the Buddha: ultimate truth and transactional or Vyavaharika truth. He does not use Vyavaharika, he uses the term Samritti Satyam. Now the question may be that if there is one ultimate truth, why not only pursue that ultimate truth? Forget the world, forget this thing. No. He says, Samritti manashritya paramartham nadhigamyate. Without taking the help of this relative level of truth, one never will attain the higher level of truth. So without the help of this world, one cannot attain Brahman. Where is Upanishad? Where is Brahma? Where is Vedanta? Where is Gita? In this world only. So this world only can give us a spiritual realization. The whole point is to know that there is an ultimate truth, and therefore use our time in this world, use everything in this world as spiritual practice, as sadhana, to realize that higher truth. Not to dismiss it as false. You cannot. As Krishna says, you cannot dismiss it. You must not dismiss it, and you need not dismiss it also.
Thank you so much for that wonderful answer, Swami. That's, I think, settles the issue for Dr. Varaprasad. So can we have the next question? Let me just put it on. Do we need to get, this is a very simple question, which is a very day-to-day question from Pradeep Muchala from Singapore. This question is, do we need to get detached from our love and concern for our children? So detachment, the question is detachment, and where do we draw the line about detachment? I mean, do we have to be concerned with our children, detached about it, and what is detachment?
Do we need detachment? Yes and no. Yes and no in what sense? No in what sense? Not in the sense that you will say, now I have studied Gita, I have studied Vedanta, and so from now on I'm going to divorce my wife and tell my children, you have become all orphans, go to orphanage, I will not take care of you. No. You may say that's silly, but the people did that. There were people who actually, they walked out. And so Krishna does not teach that. That may be one path. In traditional sannyasis, they have done that many times. But that is not what Krishna teaches. But so one can be in the family, one can perform one's duties by spiritualizing one's daily life, as we discussed in this morning session. But detachment is good. The detachment practiced by a monk from relatives, from the world, from possessions, from activities in the world. If a householder, a grihasti, practices some of those monastic qualities, life is improved. A little bit of this practice of the monastic detachment of a sadhu who is living in the Himalayas, if I bring it to the city, to Singapore, and in that attitude I take to people and objects and things around me mentally, while being engaged, while being doing everything, it gives lot of peace. And when you are at peace, you can actually do much more for your husband, wife, children, parents, your relatives. If you are at peace, if you are happy, if you are strong, you are fearless, you can do much more for them. And that comes from detachment. The kind of attachment which we have, it does no good to anybody. It does not do good to the children also. That sense of possession, I and mine, mama. Remember Mahabharata quotation, 𝗕𝗛𝗏𝗔𝗬𝗓 bhavet mrityu. These two letters, mama, mine, it is equal to death. It is most damaging. My son, my daughter. So are they not mine? Yes, they are ultimately the Lord's. And I am like a caretaker. Let me do the best I can. My Lord, my Krishna dwells in that little boy. My Devi, Lakshmi or Saraswati or Durga dwells in that little girl. I am worshipping God by taking care of that child. You need not tell your children. They will think mommy or papa has gone crazy. But mentally, if you have this attitude, the God I worship in the puja room is in that child. And all my activities are I'm cooking, I'm teaching, I'm taking care of the health of the child, teaching moral values to the child. All of that is a worship of God. You will see how much peace you get. You will see how much integration is there between puja room and your kitchen and your study room and children's room. It will be one temple. It will be one temple then.
Yeah, thank you so much, Swamiji. So basically, many people sort of detach when their children don't get good marks, or when they don't perform well in their house, and they are highly attached whenever they like them. So I think this kind of partial or rather opportunistic kind of detachment is not the idea.
Right. And that comes from selfishness. My ambitions, my goals have to be achieved by the child. No. The Lord is coming in the form of that child. Might be a brilliant student, may not be a brilliant student. Might be healthy and perfect and normal, or might be a special needs child. Who are you to judge? God is coming in that form and accepting my worship in that form. That's enough. That's finished. That's my the limit of my involvement there. Children grow up. This attachment, it continues. In the name of the welfare of the child, I am actually fulfilling my own desires. When the child grows up, and then they go to college. Here in this country, of course, very early onwards, they cut off connections with the parents. And parents if they try to remain involved, the children resist it. See, worst of all is when we are not wanted, we want to be involved in the lives of children and grandchildren. Worst case. Don't be like that. I have rendered my worship to the Lord in the form of the son or the daughter, and that's it, finished. Beautiful life, you will get peace of mind, and the children will have a very inspiring example of father and mother who did these things, who led such an inspiring life.
Thank you, Swamiji. So the next question is from Chitra Binoy, USA. This is also a pre-event question. She's asking, in pursuit of spiritual enlightenment, I wonder if my lack of interest in things I used to be a sign of apathy, or is it a beginning of spirituality? So basically, something like what we were discussing in this lecture about how to spiritualize actual life, whether it is just apathy that you're this kind of detachment, or is it a beginning of spirituality?
I see this question come many times. Many people come and say that after becoming interested in spirituality in Vedanta, I have lost interest in many other things, or my interest has declined in the career or in my hobbies. It is actually a good thing. It is an expected thing that this over-involvement in half a dozen other things in the aspect of life, that should decline a little bit. One should not become apathetic. Apathetic means you will not be interested in anything. Even spirituality also one becomes uninterested in. That is a psychological condition. That is not good. That's why focus, interest in spirituality, and keep the structure of your life. From morning till evening, family, job, all of that. What is the Kurukshetra for Arjuna? Each of us has a Kurukshetra. That should be maintained. Then it is enough. See, even when we become sannyasis, we give up all of that and we go to the ashram. You know what is done? Immediately the newcomer is given a lot of responsibility. So there is a pressure, a structure, a discipline in life. If you take that away, unless the mind is ready, very few people are ready to live totally by themselves outside society, in a mountain, in a cave, or a hut in the Himalayas. There are people living like that. But if the mind is prepared, then only you can take advantage of that. Otherwise, some social structure is necessary. It may be job, it may be house, it may be ashram. When will you get up? What are your duties? To whom are you accountable? What is the performance expected from you by different people around you? These are good for us. They are not distraction from spiritual life. If the full interest is in spiritual life, not much interest in other worldly pursuits, it's a good thing, as long as the discipline is maintained, structure is maintained. If, on the other hand, I have become interested in spirituality, in meditation, in study, I don't feel like doing my school assignments. I don't feel like too much engagement with family or with work or something. This kind of apathy, sometimes it becomes indiscipline. And the result will be not that I will become highly spiritual. Spirituality also suffers. Once this laxity comes in life, the next step will be, now earlier I used to get up, the objective was to get up early in the morning and meditate. Now a laziness will come into life. I will not feel like getting up early in the morning and meditating also. So neither the worldly discipline is there, nor spiritual practice is there. Then life becomes very tamasic. That should not happen. One must be honest about it.
Thank you, Swamiji. So there is no easy way. So we have to be disciplined and hardworking, in whether in spiritual life or in a normal worldly life. So the next question is, this is from Pradeep Bose, I think from Vedanta Society in your own ashram in New York. So this question is, in the concluding chapter 18, through the quoted verses that Lord Krishna asks for steadfast and exclusive devotion to him, plus complete unconditional surrender. So it leads to these questions. Isn't there a risk of dogmatic belief in one religion through such a teaching? So basically he says that if you say that unconditional surrender, whether it leads to dogma. So that is the first question. And how does a householder practice complete surrender to God in a day-to-day living? And aren't the above two verses completely dualistic bhakti marg, or is there an advaitic or a non-dual interpretation to it? So this is a question. So basically, okay, one of whether this complete surrender leads to some kind of dogma, and whether there is how to do that in practice in day-to-day life, and whether there is a advaitic interpretation to this verse.
So the first thing is, does it lead to dogma? So it will lead to dogma if I say that Krishna is saying it, surrender everything to me, I will take care of everything. That is in the 18th chapter, towards the end of the 18th chapter. Now, if you say Krishna alone is who is saying this, in that form only, the Krishna is God and nobody else, and there is no other form which is acceptable to me, and in only that form, that name, in that aspect only, God is to be worshipped. That's it. It can lead to dogmatism. But there is the way of interpreting this verse is, who is saying this? God is saying it. In which form? In whichever form you are worshipping. You're worshipping as Shiva, you're worshipping as Krishna, worshipping as Vishnu, you're worshipping as Devi, Durga or Kali, you're worshipping in other religions as the Ek Omkar of the Sikhs, or as God in heaven of the Christians, and so on. In each of these cases, you can say the same thing, that Lord is saying, surrender to me, I shall take care of you. So your only duty is to remain focused on God. then it's all right. It will not lead to dogmatism. Whichever religion you, whichever path you pursue. So that is the way we interpret it. And Advaita Vedanta also interprets in that way. Who is saying this? Avatara of Saguna Brahman. Avatara, the incarnation. Whose incarnation? Incarnation is always of Saguna Brahman, of Ishvara, of God. Who is this God? In whichever form you worship. Saguna Brahman can have infinite forms. Shiva is a form of Saguna Brahman. Vishnu is a form of Saguna Brahman. And when we look at other religions, we can in the same way extend it in the God of the Christians or Muslims or Jews is Saguna Brahman, is the same God. After all, how many gods are there? I had a very interesting discussion with one theologian here in New York. So he said, no, what you Hindus are saying, especially in the Ramakrishna mission, you say one God is in many forms, all religions lead to the same goal. No, we don't say that, that we feel that religions are different and they lead to different goals. So I said, you're a Christian theologian. So if all the religions are leading to different goals, ultimately goals are different, are you advocating polytheism? That the different goals are there, that the gods of the different religions are different, are you saying that? See, there are only two things you can say. If you say that the goal of the different religions is different, then you have to admit that each one is either true or false. If you say that the religions are true and each has a different goal, then you are admitting that there are many different gods. You're admitting polytheism, which they cannot. That's the first thing. The Abrahamic religions say, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, that God is only one. Now, the other alternative is that to say that the religions are different and only one is correct, all the others are false. That you cannot say also. That is fanaticism. So ultimately, it is true that all religions lead to the same goal, and it is the same Saguna Brahman, Ishvara. Beyond that, of course, lies Advaita Vedanta, where you can say Aham Brahmasmi. That is a deeper or higher thing. So there is no dogmatism involved there. Second point is, how do you practice this in householder life? Remember, Krishna is teaching Arjuna. Krishna is householder. Arjuna is householder. Neither of them are monks. So Krishna is teaching Arjuna. So he is giving him a teaching which is entirely possible in household life. It's an internal attitude. It's nothing to do with the external change. Internally, I can surrender everything to God. Everything here belongs to God. Husband, wife, children, parents, co-workers, community members. God alone is appearing in all those ways. My money, my gadgets, my health, my lifespan, how long I will live, all of these are determined by God. So if that attitude is there, one can easily surrender to God. Surrender to God becomes the most natural thing. Then finally, is this a dualistic approach or can we interpret from Advaitic perspective? One can interpret from Advaitic perspective also. When in Advaitic perspective, surrender to God will mean actually God realization, Aham Brahmasmi. I surrender my limited individuality. I am not this body. I am not this mind. I am not this. It is there, but I am not it. I am higher than this. I am the witness consciousness. That witness of the body and mind, that is non-different from Saguna Brahman. It is one with God. Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham. That is the real surrender of everything to God. Then I am not limited to this one person. These are my possessions. This is my husband, wife, children, this much only. No. I am the one consciousness in all beings. So that Brahman I am, that is a deeper interpretation of surrender. Yes.
Well, that is a brilliant answer, Swamiji, because the last part of it, especially to surrender to your own higher self. So
Yes.
that is really the most beautiful interpretation that I've heard on this verse, because normally it is taken as a dualistic kind of verse. So, but this is a wonderful interpretation. So next question. This is from WhatsApp. This has come because of the issue of YouTube. We actually had invited questions on WhatsApp. So this question has come on WhatsApp. How do we reconcile quantity and quality of Nam Jap and also do our task of Nishkam Karma Yogis with adroitness? Does multitasking by doing both simultaneously do justice to either? So what is remembering Lord's Padyupasade, and that he often says so often in Gita, really mean for a karma yogi? So this is a question.
Nama japa, repetition of a mantra, especially if you have got it from Guru.
Quantity and quality.
Both quality and quantity are important.
Yeah.
Quality, of course, always important. Am I doing it with love, with devotion, with attention? Often, problem with Nama Japa becomes, after some time, it becomes habitual. Nothing wrong with habitual, but it's not effective, not so much effective anymore. Attention, I'm concentrating on it, focusing on it, and with love. Imagine if you were in the presence of Sri Krishna, if you're actually in the living presence of Lord Vishnu, how much concentration will go? Automatically all our attention will be there. Nothing else we'll be able to think about. Like that if you bring the feeling and you are actually in the presence of God, the mantra which you have got from Guru is God. It is identical with God. Nama Nami Abheda, the non-difference of the namer and the named. So when I repeat the mantra, when I bring the mantra into my heart, into my mind, I'm repeating mentally, I'm in the presence of God. The quality is important, but quantity also. Once you have given a word to the Guru, I have taken mantra, I will do mantra japa daily. So that much minimum thing which we have promised the Guru, even if it is mechanical, and don't miss it. Early in the morning, even if it's for 10 minutes also, in the evening, even if it's for 10 minutes also, we find time for everything in the world. But only when it comes to mantra japa, when it comes to spiritual practice, oh, I'm too busy, I have no time. No, we have time. So you do that. And then how to do it in the, multitasking in the midst of many activities. Multitasking always bad idea. But remember, we have enough cognitive capacity. So when I'm doing something with my hands, when I'm doing something mechanical, I can repeat the mantra mentally. I've seen many monks and householder devotees also who do that, who have developed a habit of, at the background of all activity, little repetition of the mantra. Of course, when you need full attention, you're driving in a busy street, don't be distracted. You're performing a surgery, complicated surgery, don't be distracted by repeating the mantra. How love of God can be combined effectively with doing one's duty in the world? Very interesting answer is that, remember, God, bhakti, is heart. Work is being done by the mind, intellect, mind. So a mother who loves the child now is taking care of the child. Mother is cooking, mother is cleaning the house, mother is arranging the child's toys. Activities which are demanding attention. So physically doing something else which is not directly connected to the child. Mentally also doing something which is requiring attention. But heart is with the child. Heart is with the child. Are you saying something? I cannot hear.
No, it's okay.
Okay. So heart is with the child. So this is devotion to God is a matter of the heart. Our work is mostly performed with hand and mind. So by working with the mind, I can give attention to the work, and working with the hand, I can do the work. Heart is with God. Why am I doing this work? Because I love my God, my Lord. My Lord has given me this work, I'm doing this work. That's why. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, I've heard this from monks in our order also. In our ashram, so much work is there. Schools, colleges, hospitals, and all of that. Do your work. When you're working, work with one hand and hold on to the feet of the Lord with the other hand. When work is over, hold on to the feet of the Lord with both hands.
I think that's great. So basically the answer is that so doing multitasking of both is really important. But even if you do it with less attention, still you have to do it, and preferably you should do it with attention. That is the whole idea, right? So quality and quantity both do matter. So we cannot sacrifice one for the other. And the second part of this question is what is the meaning of Padyupasade? So there is a second part of the question. So would you like to say something about it?
Padyupasade would mean serving in all ways, not just offering flowers in a temple, but through our daily duties, through our studies, through our meditation, whatever we are offering to the world, we can connect it to God. So Pariupasate, worshipping in all ways. There is a Narada Bhakti Sutra, Sarvatha Sarva Bhavena Nischintitehi Bhagavan Eva Bhajaniya. All the time, under all conditions, worship the Lord alone. Nischintitehi, without any anxiety, without any fear. Without any anxiety or fear about the world, I am engaged in worship of the Lord. Sarva, at all times. How can you do it all times? At all times, many other duties are there. So Sarva Bhavena, in all ways, not just by puja, not just by reading Gita, not just by chanting, not just by mantra japa, but also by office work, also by teaching the children, also by cooking and cleaning the house. Sarva Bhavena. What are you doing? I'm worshipping God. I remember in our monastery in India, in a temple, I was once, as a novice, brahmachari, once my duty was to clean the flower vase. So metal flower vase was there. So I was sitting in the evening and cleaning it. One monk came in. I was polishing the vase. One monk came in and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Swamiji, I'm polishing the vase." He said, "No, you're polishing your mind." See, this is the thing. How to convert even a most ordinary activity into a spiritual activity, a spiritual practice. That is Pariupasate.
Thank you, Swamiji. I think we can go to the next question. So this is a very simple question. So how to control anxiety and anger? I mean, very apparently simple. So this is Neha Chakrabarti from Singapore. It's a pre-event question.
Yes. As notice the words used in the verse which we studied today, Vigata Jwara, free of fever. The Naradiya Bhakti Sutra which I just quoted, Nischintitehi, free of anxiety. Spiritual practice is the common thing about spiritual practice is it should be always free of any anxiety. Spirituality is that which sets you free from fear, sets you free from anxiety. Why is there anxiety? Why is there anger? It is only when we are limited to this little self and I find other people around me, then there is anxiety and anger. One Swami put it nicely. All the people around me which are causes of anxiety and anger, there are two kinds. Some are people with difficulties that causes anxiety to me. And some are difficult people that causes anger to me. So I'm surrounded by people with difficulties and difficult people. Now, when I relate to them as an individual person, as a limited person, immediately the reaction is tension and stress and anxiety. Remember, they are also looking at me as a difficult person or a person with difficulty. So that leads to this anxiety and anger. When I do not do that, when I see the whole world belongs to the Lord, why will I take the entire burden on myself? God has been taking care of the world long before my birth, is taking care of the world right now, and will be taking care of the world long after my death also. So the whole burden rests on the Lord. What can I do now? That I focus on. The famous serenity prayer I like very much. It is that, Lord, give me the courage to bear the things which I cannot change. Give me the courage to change the things which I can change. The patience to bear the things which I cannot change. And the wisdom to know the difference. So there are certain things which I can do in my life, especially in my own personal life. I can make some changes in my behavior, in my routine, in my activities, in the goal of my life. That I should be courageous enough. That's difficult. I need courageous enough to do that. There are many things I cannot change in life. Very difficult to change another person. Many of our complaints, many of our, the grudges we have are because of the behavior of others. It's very difficult to change the behavior of others. How difficult it is to change oneself. So, the patience to bear it. Patience is a great quality. In Hindi, it is called saburi. I think it's Kabir Das's song, and that Yaar mile saburi se. Sahab mile saburi se. The Lord is called Sahab in Kabir Das, and he says, how do you get God? He says, by patience alone, saburi se. So one must be patient when it comes to things which we cannot change. And God give me the wisdom to know the difference, what I can change and what I cannot change. That wisdom often we do not have. There are so many things that I can do in my own life, I don't do that. So many things I cannot do. I'm getting very angry about that. Election in USA, global warming, and then Middle East war. So directly, maybe I cannot do much about it, but I'm getting exercised about it, very angry about it. But there are many things I can do in my own personal life. I can change my own behavior towards others, the way I lead my life, my personal lifestyle. Little changes I can make. Those I'm not doing. Once Swami Shivanandaji, he was the president of our order in 1920s. So he was very old Swami, sitting in our main monastery in India in Belur Mutt. So one gentleman came. And at that time, India was fighting for the independence from the British. So one gentleman came and he was complaining to the Swami. The Swami, all these young men, they're dropping out of school and college and joining this Mahatma Gandhi's agitation. Is it right? They are avoiding their studies, they are avoiding their responsibilities to parents, and some political agitation against, how will they overthrow British government? It's all nonsense. Why should they give up their responsibilities? They're not going to school and college and all. So the Swami sat quietly. He did not respond. Next day, the same gentleman came. A young man had come to become a monk. He bowed down to Swami Shivanandaji, and Shivanji blessed him and sent him to the monastery. This gentleman, old gentleman, he was again complaining. Swami, see, is this right? At this time when Mahatma Gandhi is leading the agitation against the British for independence of India, this fellow wants to become a monk and give up, the country needs him, and he wants to give up all responsibility and become a monk. Then Swami could not contain himself anymore. He said, look, this young man has given up the world. He will sit in the monastery and meditate on God and concentrate and practice yoga and bhakti and all. He is at peace, or he will get peace. Mahatma Gandhi, in all his activities, totally busy in his engagement as social reformer, freedom fighter, and so on. I am sure he also has peace. Only you, sir, you have no peace. In either that case or this case, you have no peace at all, because you are not dealing with the problems in your own life. So that is the answer.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. This really, so basically one of balance of our expectations and our the world outside. So one should not get worried too much about what American president is going to do or nuclear war. So do what we can do. Okay, we can go to the next.
Yeah, the thing is to be focused on a high goal in life. It need not even be spirituality. It could be a service of others. It could be science or creativity or writing or singing, something, some high goal, artistic goal, intellectual goal, but best of all, spiritual goal. If you're engaged in that, this little bit of anger, resentment, grudges against others, they will go down. They will be less in life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Swamiji. And this question is a very, very relevant question for today's world. So this question of, can you please enlighten us on the power of tolerance and acceptance? So the difference between acceptance and tolerance of other religions, caste, color, pathways, viewpoints, etc., and oneness from Gita, if possible. So this is a question. Since there is no name given to the question from Facebook, I think it is in today's world of dichotomies and sharp differences of people. I think this idea of oneness and idea of tolerance and acceptance is of great relevance. So, what is Gita's perspective on this?
Yes, Bhagavad Gita gives the best and highest perspective on this. The ultimate reality is one. We appear to be different, but we are actually one as Brahman. Sri Krishna says, "Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu, vibhaktam iva cha sthitam." Undivided in all beings. I appear as if divided. We appear as if so many hundreds and millions and billions of human beings. But the bodies are billions in number. Minds are also billions in number. They're different. But beyond the body and mind is this Brahman or Atman, which is one consciousness, one existence. One existence is appearing as many. Now, if it is one existence and it is appearing as many, at the level of the many, what should be our attitude? Should we fight? Should the hand fight against the other hand? Should the hands fight against the feet? Should the feet fight against the tummy? No, you are part of one reality. This is, of course, part and whole. This becomes Vishishtadvaita. But whether Vishishtadvaita or Advaita, there is oneness there. So if there is oneness at the level of our pluralistic world, many human beings, many countries, many races, and here you will see many genders. New York has 23 genders legally. You may say, are you mad or what? No, we have legalized here in New York. 23 different genders are accepted as legal genders. So multiple genders, multiple religions, multiple ideologies. If ultimately all are one reality, if that is true, then at this level of multiplicity, what should be your attitude? Your attitude should be acceptance. Tolerance is a small word. Tolerance, it simply means that I am right, you are wrong, but somehow I am tolerating you. That is, violence is implicit in that. Intolerance is implicit in tolerance. But acceptance flows from oneness. Harmony flows from oneness. So we are different. How will we establish acceptance? Just because we are one reality, does it mean then I have to convert you all into my philosophy, into my ideology, into I have to make the whole world capitalist or communist, whole world into Hindu, Buddhist or Christian or something? No. At the level of the world, multiplicity is there. Variety is the sign of life. At the level of the world, if you try to make everything homogeneous, it is death. So variety is the very sign of life. Let there be variety, but in the variety there should not be conflict. Just because we have multiple religions, just because we have multiple ideologies, the harmony is the solution, not conflict. There need not be conflict. It's easy to say that, but you notice conflict does not automatically arise from difference. Harmony also can arise from difference. Why should conflict arise from difference? So the Gita's attitude of oneness, one Brahman appearing as many, it means that in our world of many, our pluralistic world, there should be harmony, there should be acceptance. And India is a living proof of this. In India and Hinduism, you have such a variety of ways of worship. God has been understood, worshipped in so many ways. Variety is automatically accepted. Plurality is automatically accepted in Hinduism. Sometimes I'm called here to give talks about different religions, about Hinduism, representing Hinduism to its schools, school kids. Many of them are where there are no Indians at all. Nobody is a Hindu. So I have to explain. So I say one thing you have to understand is the enormous complexity, the variety within Hinduism. So any question you ask in Hinduism, answer is yes and no. Do Hindus believe in God? Yes and no. There are philosophies like Sankhya, for example, which is Nirishwara. There is no talk about God there. Is God male? Yes and no. And Hindus believe in God in a male form, as Shiva, as Vishnu, but in female form, as Durga or Kali or Devi, as beyond gender, as Ardhanarishwara. So I say it's not that New York came up with multiple genders now. It is there from our most ancient conceptions of God also. Multiple genders, beyond gender. So variety is built into the very understanding of religion in Hinduism. Acceptance is built into it. Swami Vivekananda said, I do not teach tolerance, I teach acceptance. The Hindu accepts the truth of all religions. So that flows from oneness. Somebody charged me, Swami, you are saying all these things, but will people of other religions agree? Do they agree to this? Don't they say that our religion only is right and yours is all the others are false? Your religion is false, others are false. I said, yes, We need not be foolish when we say this. We understand what is the situation. But after understanding the situation, how will you respond to the situation? Will you respond as a Hindu or as a non-Hindu? If you respond as a Hindu, that is the beauty of Hinduism. That is the power and the glory and the superior nature of Hinduism, which if I may use the word, that it understands and comprehends and includes within itself tremendous diversity. It is a wider and a bigger conception, a much greater conception of spirituality. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Swami. I think in today's world of diverse opinions and diversities, I think, and also cutthroat competition between various religions, I think this message of oneness and acceptance is really very, very important. So I think all good things need to come to a close. So we are already 9:50 in Singapore time. We have just time for one more question. So we want to go to the final segment of vote of thanks for the next in the next 5 minutes. So I will take the last question for today. So it is very unfortunate we cannot continue too much with these questions, but we hope to take them up in future times with Swamiji, probably offline. So this question is like this. This is from, actually, I've combined two questions, one from 𝗕𝗩𝗏𝗓𝗏. He was one of the earlier presidents of the of our Gita Jayanti, as well as he's currently the president of Singapore's Sindhi Association, and also from Subramaniam S. Singapore. So the question is like this: how to use our understanding of Gita to help others? Actually, a number of others also have asked similar questions. And a related question is by Subramaniam is: we understand concepts and theory of Gita, but in transactional world, it struggled to follow. So give practical tips. So this is something like how to spiritualize our daily activities. So I think Swamiji has already talked about this, but still maybe in the final parting question, maybe we can further look at this topic once again from Swamiji's perspective.
I see he leads up with how to use our understanding of Gita to help others.
Yeah.
So the highest ideal of service is based on the Gita's teachings. Swami Vivekananda, he when he started the Ramakrishna Math and Mission, service is spirituality. How? Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva. This is something he heard from Sri Ramakrishna. Serve all jivas, all sentient beings, by worship of God in all the jivas. Service to the jivas is worship to God. How? Because the Bhagavad Gita teaches, I alone am manifesting in all these beings, in all names and forms. I alone exist. In all the waves, it is the same water. In all the ornaments, it is the same gold. In all living beings, men and women, children, young and old, different religions, different castes, different nationalities. It is the same divinity. Different living forms also, living beings. The same divinity manifesting is as all this variety. Now when we serve others, when we do things for others, when we give our help, we are not helping, we are not giving donation, we are not giving charity. We are actually worshipping God. Worship of God through the service of all sentient beings. This is fully, the foundational philosophy for this comes from Bhagavad Gita. Practical concept. So Swami Vivekananda said, let the giver kneel down and offer, let the receiver stand up and receive. What a beautiful thing. How is that possible? Normally when you are giving, you feel that I'm doing charity, I'm giving a donation. You should be grateful. Like Rockefeller threw that check in front of Swami Vivekananda. I have done as you suggested, you should thank me. Vivekananda said, you should thank me. Because we recognize the divinity in the person to whom we are offering this service. So we kneel down and offer. And the person who receives it in full consciousness of the divinity. So that is the attitude. Practical things we saw how to spiritualize our day-to-day life by offering every activity to God. And make the goal spiritual realization. What goal Vivekananda had, what goal Mahatma Gandhi had, same goal we have. All of us, we have that goal. Whatever may be our activity in the world. Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful answer. I don't think we have time for one more question. So probably we will move over to the next segment, the final segment of Thanksgiving, vote of thanks. So thank you, Swamiji, for all the wonderful answers that you've given. Now I will invite Mr. Brijesh Shukla, who is actually the current organizing committee chairman of Gita Jayanti, who is also the president of Singapore North Indian Hindu Association, to give his vote of thanks. Over to Brijesh ji.
Hari Om and Jai Sri Krishna. We were just blessed with the most illuminating and thought-provoking discourse on Gita, followed by a very interesting question and answer session, which touched upon a wide variety of topics. As the organizing committee chairman of Gita Jayanti for year 2020, it is my immense pleasure to purpose this vote of thanks. First and foremost, I wish to thank from bottom of my heart the highly revered Swami Sarvapriyananda from Vedanta Center of New York, established by Swami Vivekananda himself in 1894, about 126 years ago. We are indeed fortunate to listen to the word of wisdom from the most respected Swamiji, who kindly and gracefully accepted our invitation for being the distinguished invited speaker for the International Gita Forum 2020. Secondly, I wish to thank the distinguished personalities who attended today's online live talk, like Ambassador Mr. Jayachandranji, Chairman of Hindu Endowment Board, Mr. Krishnanji, Chairman of Hindu Advisory Board, Ambassador Mr. 𝗘𝗩𝗘𝗥𝗬𝗏, heads and office bearers of several previous lead organizations of Gita Jayanti, and all other members of distinguished audience and student of 𝗕𝗛𝗏𝗏𝗏 Bhagavad Gita. I also extend my gratitude to the chairman and member of the steering committee, as well as member of my own organizing committee for their key roles in organizing this event and making this possible. I also thank Mr. Srinivasanji, the chairman of the steering committee, for his welcome address, and Mr. Krishna Kumarji for moderating the questions from the multiple online sources, many of which came live. My sincere thanks is also due to Sindhuji, who chanted the invocation verses for the event so beautifully. This event is made possible by the use of technology and skillful management of the modern technological infrastructure and tools. And the technical management for this event is handled so wonderfully by our technology team comprising of Mr. Rameshji, Mr. Manishji. My gratitude to them for their tireless efforts. This event is held in the highly challenging times of COVID-19. Even in these tough times, the message of Gita continues to inspire with the right way of action and living, as shown by Swamiji. Lord Krishna immense kripa, compassion makes everything possible. For his boundless compassion and grace and blessings, we are forever grateful. May his blessings be on all us, and may the world be back to normalcy as soon as possible. Hari Om and Jai Sri Krishna. Now I invite Sindhuji for closing prayers. Over to
सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् एकौ शास्त्रं देवकी पुत्रगीतम् एको देवो देवकी पुत्र एव एको मन्त्रस्तस्य नामानि यानि कर्माप्येकन्तस्य देवस्य सेवा। ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्ति भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर् भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ओं तत्सत् श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम्
Thank you so much, everybody, for a wonderful session. So this ends our this Gita Forum, International Gita Forum for 2020. So we apologize for some of the technical glitches that we had due to the some technology problems. So anyway, we will meet you at the next Gita Forum. So we will keep in touch with all the people who have responded. And we could not answer all the questions. We'll also try to get some answers, at least from Swamiji and other distinguished seers and saints. So thank you, everybody, once again.